Yes, hello and welcome to Women in Confidence. How are you doing?
How are you doing? I'm doing great, thank you. It's great to be here with you.
Well, thank you for joining me. Where are you at the moment in the world? I like to get this pointed out right at the beginning so people can see how global we are.
Exactly. Well, it's been a week that I've been back in Rome, Italy, and before that I spent 3 weeks in the U.S., which was amazing, where I was born and raised. But I've been living in Italy for over 20 years, and in Boston and New York and Martha's Vineyard. It was just wonderful. So
Yeah.
now I'm in Italy, and next week to Spain.
Oh gosh, okay. So really well traveled. And
Exactly.
was the travel part of work or pleasure?
Both. Actually, I had a reunion with my high school in Boston. So people were like, "Oh, you're coming to the States. Let's do some workshops. Let's do 7 steps workshop. Let's do Dancing with Riches workshop, a 3-day body class with Access." And so I did that in New York, and then I traveled to Martha's Vineyard, where I used to go every summer as a kid. It's an island off the coast of Massachusetts, and it was just so lovely. I haven't been there in years. Swimming in
Amazing.
the morning in the ocean at 7:30 in the morning. But you're in Australia, so you're used to swimming in the ocean, I
Yeah, but not in the
guess.
winter. Definitely not in the winter. Well, you've
Yes.
mentioned two things there in just your little introduction I want to cover. One was about the 7 steps, and the other one was about Dancing with Riches. So we're going to cover those off. But I was just looking and doing some research about you, and there are many things that could be attributed to you and your job or what you do. So I've got business entrepreneur, I've got motivational speaker, empowerment business coach, communication expert, and also an author and a singer. I know you're a singer as well. So just tell everybody in your own words, how would you describe what you do?
Well, I'm always asking, what is it that brings me joy? And always asking, what is it that if I engage with, even if it's not business, but that it will create more in my life? You know what I mean? So I've been playing tennis and doing workouts, and we might not have a lot of time. We might have our calendar, our checklist, but things go so much more with ease and so much more quickly if we take some time and put ourselves on our calendars. You know what I mean? And it sort of gives your body, really lots of space and relaxation, and it actually relaxes your mind a bit, which we're so engaged with our mind and what we think we have to do. And if we're just showing up as who we are, who we really are, then the confidence that we have in ourselves, we know we can never get ourselves wrong, right? We know that nobody does us like we do us. And so even if someone has some criticisms or some suggestions, we're not going into defense or feeling like we are right or wrong about something. We are the best version of us that exists. So lots of things, yes, that I engage with. I even did a couple of casting
Oh,
things for television
wow.
series. Yeah. But just to have fun, just to actually go out of your comfort zone, so that when you go back into your comfort zone, something you're used to, you're like so ready. You're like, oh, this is easy.
I really
But
like what
it,
you say about putting yourself in your diary because I mean, I know, and I'll probably speak for many women who are listening, that's really hard to do. Is because people have jobs, people have businesses, people have families, etc. How have you been very clear or established that boundary that you're going to put yourself in your diary?
right. Well, I'm not sure that it's actually very hard. It's that maybe we have never even considered it. Do you know what I mean? Because when you put things, you've got the phone, you've got the iPhone or the Android, and you put things in your calendar, it's usually dates that come through an email or something that you've agreed with someone else. But what is it that you can agree with yourself? You know what I mean? In those workshops, I ask, what's different and unique about you? That's the first step in the 7 steps. What's your unique brand of magic? And in the Dancing with Riches, we're talking about business and workshops. One of the first things I ask is, what's vital for you? What is it that if we were not doing it, life would not be so, exciting or interesting, or, really wouldn't have fun being here. I love the outdoors. So a lot of times when we're working on computers with the sun, or maybe there's not that much sun in the winter, but, we're inside, we're looking at a screen. I love looking at the trees. I love looking at the sky. I love looking at the water. So what is it that's vital to you that brings you joy, that really makes your breathing really a deep breath? And even if you just put it in the calendar and don't do it, it's still there, present in your life. And oops, there's one thing I didn't do on my checklist. I didn't go out and see the trees or listen to the birds or take a walk. So really, I don't think that it's difficult for people to do it. I think that just to think about it, what is it today that I can do that will bring me more delight, joy, pleasure in my life? And if you do take 10 seconds, 1 minute, 10 minutes per day to do that, everyone else and everything else that you engage with will be very grateful. Because you'll be so much more enjoyable.
So before we come on to talk about the 7 steps and the Dancing with Riches, what does having confidence mean to you, Kass?
Having confidence, to me, means knowing who you are, knowing what your capacities are, and knowing what it is that, when you are in line with that, allows you to enjoy life much more. And it's not about making someone else wrong. In the Access Consciousness, we talk about, honoring you, which just means not treating you with disrespect. Something that works for you, it doesn't mean that something that does not work for you is about making someone else wrong. But something that does not work for you, if you continue doing that, that's not honoring you. That's not treating you with respect. And once you're willing to treat yourself with respect and honor you, then it's so much easier to treat other people with respect and honor them. And even with your projects, what works for your projects? You might have an idea that, oh, we've got to get this done. But truth, does that work for your project? Is that something that it actually is honoring of your project? Once you honor you, then it's much easier to honor other people as well. So confidence for me is knowing that you are the best version of you that exists. And if you are willing to acknowledge what works for you, then you have confidence when you walk, when you talk, when you play tennis or golf or whatever it is you play, when you swim, when you work with other people, and when you wake up in the morning. Yeah. And so that connecting with you is something that I really enjoy engaging with. And you can trust yourself that sometimes you're not connected with you. Sometimes you're in a cranky mood. You trust that. You know that. You don't expect, oh, I can never be cranky. I can never be in a bad mood. No, you trust yourself. You know that every now and again, this is what's going to show up for me. And if you're not resisting that, then you go so much faster back to your confidence and to your trust of you and to your honoring of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I was starting to think about, you're a confident person now, but have you always been confident? Have you always trusted yourself and really connected with yourself, and also put yourself in your own diary?
The first thing that comes for us is confidence. When we enter into our mind and calculating and trying to decide what the best thing is, and doing some judgments of ourselves, then we go into a lack of confidence. But really, what comes to you naturally is part of who you are. So since I was a child, the confidence I don't know if I would actually identify it as confidence, but the clarity for me of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go and what I would like to enjoy and experience was quite clear. Now, used to be a little bit pushy as a kid because I would push people to get out of being cranky or sad by really inviting them to laugh or to enjoy something, or really soliciting from them, what do you want to do, what would you like to do, I'm happy to do it, what is it that you like to do, as a kid, and laughing and enjoying them, and they would say, okay, she's not gonna let me be cranky and lack of confidence. So then they would become present, and when you have presence, right, then there's no lack of confidence really, because there's no judgments. You're present with what is going on at the moment. And so, I had we all have phases, I guess, and I guess you might call it lack of confidence. But lack of confidence, how much is that something that's knocking at your door that you maybe are not even willing to look at or consider? Like losing a job, right? I remember the first time I lost a job. I was like, oh my goodness, how could that possibly happen? And then everyone was inviting me to take another job. And maybe you call this a lack of confidence, but I didn't want to take another job. I actually wanted to spend some time exploring something new that I'd like to do. And that's what had me show up in Italy 20 years ago. So what is it that we've identified as a lack of confidence that is actually an awareness, a sixth sense, right? A gut feeling that we are too busy focusing on the confidence level, and it doesn't allow us to acknowledge, hey, not only are we confident, but we're also wise, and we're also aware of something that maybe we haven't yet defined or identified, but let's explore it some. And that is what we've identified as lack of confidence, maybe wisdom.
Yeah, and I think what you've done there is flip lack of confidence or a fear and turned it into something incredibly positive. So you've talked about wisdom and opportunities and something that perhaps is there for you to explore. And I really like that, the way you flip that, because yeah, many people don't, there'll be so many events in their life that, knock their confidence, let's just use that. But actually what you're saying is, this is a really great opportunity for you to seek something that's perhaps calling you, and giving you that space to explore and be wise and all those sorts of things. I love the way you've done that.
Yeah, thank you. And also, I mean, I love your questions. That we've talked before, and I love the way you invite that. So maybe if you ever were thinking, oh, it's a lack of confidence, I need to get some more information. If you looked at it from a different perspective, is that a lack of confidence that you need more information, or is that your wisdom that you're like, I know there's something here that if I tap on different buttons, it will actually expand and share with people,
Mm,
and the brilliant creators are sort of like that. They're they're not sitting back in their chair and relaxing. They're actually always testing new things. So they're so busy moving forward that they don't actually have time for that lack of confidence. And what invitation can we be for people to recognize, oh wow, I'm feeling a lack of confidence. Isn't that interesting? I wonder what my awareness is at the moment that's showing up in my life as a lack of confidence. Yeah.
mm.
Yeah.
Well,
And
let's.
it also, I just wanted to say, it also, we that sixth sense, that wisdom, that intuition, also how much, if we're feeling what we've identified as lack of confidence, is our tapping into what other people around us who are in relationships with us, who are working with us, who we just walk by in the street, right, are feeling. How much are we picking up on what's going on with them? So one of the questions we ask, amazing questions in the Access Consciousness, is when you're feeling a lack of confidence, ask yourself, wait a minute, is this mine? Who does this belong to? Is this mine? It's such a great question. And the millisecond after you ask that question, if that tension and those feelings and emotions that come up when you're identifying them as lack of confidence, the millisecond after you ask, wait a minute, is this mine? Truth. If it lightens up, if it goes away, if it makes you smile, you're like, oh, that's just my wisdom. Okay, let me keep going.
You are
You don't have
so
to solve it.
right. Because
You
you
don't have to
people,
solve it.
yeah, true. Is people carry other people's lack of confidence. And you're right, asking yourself the question, is this mine or is it somebody else's? Is just that sort of circuit breaker to say, this is not my shit to deal with. This is someone
Yes,
else's lack of confidence that
absolutely.
I'm
And
shouldering.
recognize just while you're moving forward, recognize, wow, I'm pretty good. I've got intuition. You know what I mean? Instead of, oh my gosh, why am I picking up on other people's things? That's a talent. That's an ability,
Mm.
you know? It's so interesting. I remember, people have asked me, and I wrote about this. Have you experienced racism, being American, being Black, being, and I'm like, uh, I don't think so. I don't think so. But maybe other people have. And am I not picking up on what they're, you know what I mean? You can go into that. Or is there something beyond that? So really, or being a woman, a lack of confidence being a woman, being in Italy, it's the women's movement in Italy happened, 20 years later, However, how can I use that being a woman here in Italy to my advantage? Not, being an American, different, not an Italian, to my advantage. And what does that mean to my advantage? To gain something from it? No, to create more, not only in my life, but in the world. Yeah.
So let's talk about the 7 steps, because I can see just behind you, I can see it, but nobody else will be able to see it. You've got a tiny little thing that says 7 steps. So
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
let's,
yes, yes.
yeah, yes, you've got a banner
Yes,
saying seven
yes, yes.
steps.
I just did a book reading, so I've got the
Oh,
banners.
okay. Well, I can see it, and it looks amazing, and it's drawn me in to ask you the questions. How did you develop the 7 steps?
Well, it's a great question, especially since we're talking about confidence, right? I was working on a book for a couple of years on communication. I got a, undergrad degree in communication and graduate program in, communication as well. And so, but one morning, I woke up after working on that for so long, and the 7 steps came to me. It was like, well, how can I make this easy? It's such a small little book. And it was about 7 years ago. So 7 is a magic number in this moment. And it's so funny, lots of religious people and spiritual people and everyone loves that number 7, but so maybe I was picking it up, the number 7, but 7 easy steps. And so I began writing, typing as I was doing every morning, and this just flowed out. It's such a short little book. And it's how do you connect with you? How do you disconnect with you? And how do you reconnect with you once you've found the road back to you so that you can establish true connection? So those are the 4 phases. And over the last 7 years, it's just been, delightful to engage and activate teachers, trainers of 7 steps around the world. And just of different languages, different cultures, different colors, different sexes, different sexual preferences, just all around the world. So that 7 steps to flawless communication is something that we're all capable of, just not having any flaws in the way you are. And that's the confidence. If you are not being the confidence of who you are, come on. There's nobody else that does you better than you are. How could you not be confident about you, But it's not defined. And so you continually explore what's new and different for you in your life today. And, the founder of Access Consciousness, Gary Douglas, when we met almost 20 years ago, and he said, you have a very different way of communicating, Kass. It's not just that you live in Italy and you speak different languages, that you're American, but you just communicate differently. And I think that is something you can share with the world, that would be a contribution. So it's now in 20 languages, that book. And also the teachers are probably in about 10 languages around the country.
Mm.
And you know what? The first language is our vibration, our energy. And that's when we're in line with that vibration, confidence is something that is part of who we are.
Well, talk to me about vibration then, because I understand what you mean by that. But perhaps some people who are listening to this podcast might not get what you mean by vibration and energy.
Yeah, well, a vibe, right? So sometimes have you ever walked into a room and said, "Oh, well, I don't really like this room. I'm not sure why," right? Or somebody walks in and say, "Wow, they feel a little not happy. I wonder what's going on with them," right? So that's a vibe. Okay, that's an energy.
Mm.
And that's something that we are, and that is part of who we are, and that energy is in our bodies also. And when we're connected with ourselves, we allow that vibe to be shared with others, right? When we're disconnected with ourselves, it's actually a disconnection from others. So when you walk into a place, or you hear a phrase, or see a picture, or um, go into a restaurant, and does it feel good to you? Does it make you happy? Are you excited about being there? Or does it feel a little strange? I don't know why this is not really working for me, I call that light, right? When it feels good, and heavy when there's something not exactly in line with your vibration. So it's different for everyone, you know what I mean? Because we have two vibrations, you and I, that actually sort of dance together. They're in rhythm together, and we enjoy our conversations. It doesn't always happen with people, and that doesn't mean that they're wrong, right? It doesn't mean that you have to, oh my goodness, why can't I be in line with that person, to be in a lack of confidence? Maybe it's a wisdom, right? If you don't go into that lack of confidence, or maybe it's just not the moment for that to
Mm.
go on. But each and every one of us lives on this planet, and walks on the earth. And so the vibration that we are is something that is part of this world, of this planet, of this earth. So when you are connected with your vibration, it's a kindness to you, to your confidence level, right? To your people that are in your life. And it's also a contribution and a kindness to the world.
Mm.
When a tree, right, is like, the leaves are not so happy. They're a little. I've got a plum tree outside, and that's happening a little bit. And they're fading, and then the fruit comes out on those trees, and it's not really healthy, the fruit. And then if it falls on the ground, then it might infect the dirt that's on the ground. You know what I mean? So, but if the tree is actually in line, right, with its vibe, and creating the branches and the leaves and then the fruit in the way that only that tree does, right? Then how many people, is that just about the tree? No. Then the grass is happy, and then you're happy when you get the fruit, then your body's feeling good because you're eating good fruit. So really, that is the vibe of true wealth that we are. And so when you're not feeling good, just ask, what can I put in my calendar today that would allow me to be more connected with the vibe of who I am? Yeah.
Mm.
And only asking the question could be enough,
Well, I
because
was
your
going to
body will.
ask you actually, because you've mentioned two things. You've talked about connecting with yourself, and then also you talked about realizing when you're disconnected with yourself. And suppose, so my question really is, what's the one sort of bit of advice that you could say to the people who are listening, is to find out, am I connected with myself, or am I what I'm feeling totally disconnected? Is there some little trick or tip that they can do? I mean, you've already said take a moment to ask yourself the question, but what is there anything else you can help us with, Kass?
Yeah, absolutely. That second phase of disconnected, how do you know when you're disconnected with yourself? When you're in resistance to something, when you're really locked into your head and you're having conversations with people before they've even happened. You know what I mean? Those conversations. Have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I mean, goodness, you're like, okay, well, if they say this to me, this is what I'm going to respond.
Yeah.
And when I see them, this is what I'm going to say. You know what I mean? You go into that and then you never see them. They actually don't show up. And how many minutes or hours did you spend going over that conversation and wasting your time for something that actually didn't show up? So there's many different ways to know when you're not connected with you. And in the 7 steps, one of the ways that we talk about that disconnection is when you have barriers up, when you're in resistance to something or someone, when you're actually not feeling even your joy. If you have a joke, if you have anything that makes you laugh in life, this is just an advice, write it down, or a little word, something that reminds you of it. Put it in your wallet, keep it in your wallet. So if you're feeling not that great, you pull it out and look at it. If you don't laugh like you usually do, when that shows up, you know you're not connected. If you know you've got up some walls or barriers or something. And how do you do that? There's this pulling down your barriers exercise, and I've written about that in both of the books, Dancing with Riches and 7 Steps. I've also, there's some free stuff on YouTube about it. And also, sometimes when you're doing that, it's almost like you have this shield up, right? So one of the ways that you can do it without seeing us now, she's beautiful too, if you guys ever wanted to see her, is also when you are feeling, how do I know if I'm disconnected or not? You might just want to count to 10, and put your hand maybe on your heart. I mean, sometimes, and I've written about this, sometimes we're so busy, we've got so many things on our checklist, we have so many things to do, we have so many things, and so we're really busy, and you put your hand on your heart and you can't even feel it beating. Really, you can't even feel it beating. You know you're not connected with you. Put your hand on your pulse, right? And just taking, really, darling, just taking 10 seconds to put your hand on your pulse and to count every time you feel a beat. That will connect you. Isn't that amazing? Because you're dedicating 10 seconds to something that engages with you. And don't forget to breathe.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say breathing, because
don't forget to breathe.
Because it's such it's something you just do without really thinking about it. But when you actually concentrate on your breathing, I guess a bit like reaching for your pulse, it really focuses your mind on something other than all that's out there, all that noise and the distraction and the busy. The breath really helps you focus, and you realize when you start to connect with your breath, you realize how fast you breathe and how out of sync most of your breath. But just like you say, 10 seconds just to focus on your breath can really bring you back to
Absolutely.
yourself.
I mean, it's just such a simple one. And people, once they do that, even if I suggest to people that they wake up in the morning and do that. We may have to go to the loo, right? We may have to go make a call, but truly 10 seconds that you're willing to just breathe in, put your hand on your pulse or your heart. When you first wake up, you will be more connected than usual. And just count the beats or say beep, 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 beep. That's an easy way to connect with you. And you begin to notice, once you start doing that, when you are not connected with you. You might be in an office. We talk about work a lot. We might be in an office and someone says something that sounds a little bit rigid. You will not even hear truly what they are saying if you are disconnected from you. You might even want to record it, because if you're disconnected, you've got up a wall or barrier. What they say comes through a really small tube tunnel to you, and it's exactly what you've already decided. that they are saying, and it might be something quite different. So, and is that enjoyable? You know what I mean? Is that enjoyable in life? And I love one of these movies with Denzel Washington and Hanks, where it says Denzel Washington says, "Can you talk to me like I'm a 2-year-old, please?" You know what I mean? Does that mean he was unconfident as a cop? No, it means that I'm really willing to have it arrive in a way that I understand it and get it, So when you are really connected with you, then you can connect with other people, seeing things from their perspective. And I talk a lot about this with the 7 steps. And it might just be something that showed up for them that day, you know? Might have nothing to do with you. Most people are so disconnected and so much in judgment of themselves. Vanessa, they totally don't have time to judge us. I mean, we're just like on the second plan, piano, on the second phase for them. They're just busy not having confidence in themselves, judging themselves. So when they talk to us or when their vibe comes as something that's not really congruent with ours, it might not have anything to do with us. It might have to do with them. So with those 7 steps to flawless communication, it's A, connecting with you, B, recognizing when you're disconnected, and C, reconnecting in a different way with people, including you, but not excluding them. Yeah.
And I guess doing this, like checking in with your vibration, checking when you're connected and disconnected, it's like a muscle. It has to be practiced. It's not something, or it has to be used on a regular basis. It's not something you go, okay, I'm going to do this once. I'm going to wake up in the morning, feel my pulse, and I'm here.
Whatever works for, I mean, some people wake up in the morning, they do meditation. Some people wake up in the morning, they do exercises. Some people wake up in the morning, they sing a song. I love that, singing a song. Do yoga, whatever it is that works for you. I just mentioned that quick one because sometimes you wake up, and we're so busy, we have to go. I remember when I first started Access Consciousness, they said, if you wake up in the morning and you say this this mantra, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. If you say that 10 times in the morning, right, it'll change your vibration. So I said, of course, no, I'm not sure that's going to work. I'm going to try it and I will see after a couple of months. If it doesn't work, I'll definitely tell them, right? So, but that was an obligation I was doing to myself. So then when I would wake up and I'd be in the sink or, at the sink brushing my teeth, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I didn't do that. I'd go back in the bed and I'd say it again with the toothbrush in my mouth. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing to begin the day. All of life comes to me. It's about you with ease and joy and glory. That's lovely. But if you don't remember that, do the pulse, and then you'll say, what else could I do in the morning to start the day with you? That's my song. Anyway, singer, I love that.
Go
That's
for
my
it.
song
I
with
want
the
to hear you
Dancing with
sing.
Riches.
So
Yeah.
Kass sang to me when we first met, and I really hope she sings for me now.
It would be my pleasure.
Oh, I know. Please do, because it's beautiful and pleasure. And the reason why the song came about is because of your work. It's not. It's connected to the Dances with Riches. So it's a really important song for what you do as well.
Absolutely. And it's also, the beat, a friend of mine, it's a Kasimba song, this guy Simba. The beat is actually a beat that it's danceable, but it's also a rhythm that connects with people to help them avoid Alzheimer's. And yeah. And so, with a girlfriend of mine who she's a Sikh and, Italian, but she's like married to a Sikh and she does that kind of thing. We don't do that necessarily. However, whatever can be a contribution to people, you know what, darling? That makes our lives more enjoyable. Because if there are more happy people, confident people, people who are enjoying life, in our lives and on the planet, it changes the vibe on the planet and in the world and in our lives too.
Mm.
So we don't have to walk down the street with everyone with barriers up, everyone disconnected, everyone without confidence, right? The more we are actually spreading that vibe out there. So that's what the creation of the song was about too. And in the book Dancing with Riches, I share so many examples of my life, my so that, and then what if this ever shows up for you? Here's some tools you can use. It's a how-to book. Yeah, and so I really enjoy, the feedback I'm getting on them. And what else? What else?
So would you say then, so based on what you've just talked about, would you say that confidence is contagious, it's infectious? So if you're confident and you're radiating your vibration, is it infectious? I mean, smiling is, because you're smiling and I immediately smiled, but is confidence the same thing?
Yes, and you were smiling not because I was smiling. It was your wisdom and your awareness that had you smiling. Yes, yes. And when you ask that question, right? How do you feel inside?
Oh, I mean, I just feel joy when I do these podcasts anyway. So I come into this whole space of podcasting with such an energy. I mean, you might not necessarily see it, but I feel it. So anytime I ask a question, I'm just like, oh, this makes me so happy.
And where do your questions come from?
Well, I don't script anything. So it comes from here, and it comes from, I guess, my wisdom, what my curiosity,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, this is very, very selfish in many ways, this podcast, because it's about what I want to know about you and what you can teach. And I just have this amazing ability to share that then with other people. But
And
my
how is that
questions,
selfish? That's so
well,
kind.
because I do, well,
How
maybe it is kind, because I use this as a channel to share with other people. But for me, my questions are like, I want to know about what Kass is saying, and I'm just hoping other people do want to know as well.
Yes, but it's also your wisdom, and that's connecting with you, right? And that's how you're a contribution to other people, you know? So, I mean, and I love the reason I'm asking you these is also to demonstrate to whoever's listening to us also, and to you, the wisdom that you have, that actually in connecting with you, and you're focused first on you and what you'd like to know. And when you are enjoying that, then you're actually sharing that vibe with the world. Yeah.
Mm.
And so even if they don't, listen to us, they hear us and they hear the vibe of what we're saying, right? So what is the question? This is a question I'm asking for anyone listening. What is the question that you can ask someone that will actually give you more access to your wisdom, and you can share that vibe with the world? And that's what Vanessa does, and she's amazing at that. Yeah.
You're very, very kind. But where can people find the book? Because, well, particularly Dancing with the Riches, but you've obviously got 7 Steps as well. Where can people find all the information about you and your books and all your work?
Yeah, they can find them. We've got all the links on kassthomas.com. You can find out where to go, because some are they're on Amazon, all of them, and we have them in different languages. And so there's different publishers for different ones. The 7 Steps, I'm the main publisher of that. It's a self-published book because it's so small. The publishers are like, honey, it's like, it's more than 20 words, but the Dancing with Riches, it's now, yeah, in English, you can find it on accessconsciousness.com/shop. The Dancing with Riches in English. And yeah, if you want it in French, it's on Amazon. And in Spanish, it's on the Access Consciousness site in Spanish. It's in English. It's from Schiffer Publishing in the United States, and they also have a European on amazon.co.uk for the rest of the world. Yeah.
I'll put all those details in the show notes so people can reach out.
Yeah. I can check, but all of that, if you go to kassthomas.com, whatever language you want, whatever book you want. Yeah. And I've co-written several books. The Adventures of Being You by Dr. Dane here, one of the authors in that book, and also, several other books too. So all of those are on the website. Yeah.
And just going back to your books then, because that's not how you started out. You didn't start as an author. How did you know that sort of deep inside you had a book in you and you were going to then produce, several books?
Well, I had always wanted to, and I didn't remember that until several years after writing a book. I'd always wanted to be, thought I wanted to be an author and a teacher, right? And it wasn't until years later when I was facilitating access classes and had a book out, and I was like, wait a minute, I guess I am a teacher. And I'm an author. That's so funny, right? Because when you're moving forward. But like I said, there were some great books that I was helping find publishers in Italy for Access Consciousness books by Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here, and they were like, "Cass, you need to write a book," and I was like, "Why? Hello." Don't distract me. I'm busy trying to get these books into Italian so the Italians can, that you guys did. Yes, but every one of us, and this is for anyone thinking, and we do work on helping people write their book. Every one of us has a different way of sharing something in a book. So what the book I write will be different, even if it's the same topic, than the book you write. And some people will like up mine, some people will like yours, but either way, it's going to be a contribution. So that's they sort of pushed me to write it. And I said, well, it's not, I'm talking about the way I communicate. It's about my life. It's not going to be necessarily an access book. They were like, who cares? It doesn't have to be, it has to be yours. So that was such a invitation. And each and every one of us is unique. So what is it that you could get out there? And, any way I can help, please let me know, because you are amazing and unique.
So are you going to sing for me your song? Because I loved it.
Life can be difficult. At times it weighs you down, but that's no reason to go through every day with a frown. Take a look at the brighter side. Be strong, be ready, be free. Learn from your failures and become all you can be. Dancing with riches. Don't give in to strife. Dancing with riches. You can cut through it like a knife. Dancing with riches. Learn how you can strive. Dancing with riches, the pleasures, the treasures of your life.
Oh, Kass, thank you. You've totally set the benchmark now for all my guests to come. They've got to sing to me and then do some more than that. Gosh, that was amazing. Thank you so much. So, Kass, sorry, this interview could go on for a long time. And I think when we first met, we did actually talk for over an hour, but we have to draw it to a close, I'm afraid. So I just want to say a huge thank you for being on the show. What's your sort of parting advice to people who are listening and they just want to understand about confidence, and am I a confident person and what I can do to become confident? What's your sort of parting
Absolutely. And thank you for asking. And, a couple of the things that I invite people to just have a look at is, what are you grateful for? Who are you grateful for? I suggest that people actually just write it on a little piece of paper and put it in a little box or a hat, something in the morning. What am I grateful for? Sometimes it takes us a while. I'm grateful to have, two hands or something like that, whatever it is, so that when you are not feeling confident, you can go into that box or that hat and pull out some of the things that you've written in there. And another thing to ask, what is vital to me in my life? That's one of the things that I engage with in my first module of the Dancing with Riches workshops. And a lot of times we think, oh, what's vital is that I do this, that I do that. Might be just breathing fresh air. And I just wanted to say, there's no wrong way of breathing. If you're listening, you're still alive and you're breathing just fine. So don't go into the rightness of it. But what is vital to me? And just sort of write some 10 things down that if it didn't exist, if you didn't have a window, the sun might be vital to you. If you didn't have, a nice cup of tea in the morning, whatever that is, just write it down. It doesn't have to be significant. But the more you are willing to do that, then you begin to connect with you in a way that gives you confidence in knowing that you know you, right? That no one does you better than you. And that if you're willing to honor you, trust you, be grateful for you, be vulnerable with you, and be an allowance of you, you will have a level of confidence and intimacy with yourself that will create more in your life and also in the lives of others.
Mm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Well, Kass, thanks again for being on the show. And I'll put all the details of how people can contact you and maybe the lyrics to your song as well in the show notes so people can read those. So thank you so much for joining me today on Women in Confidence.
I adore you. Thank you so much. And please continue being the contribution you are to the world. Amazing.